The Power Moms Network, empowering moms to lift the world.
Welcome. I'm Riley Karsh.
I'm Tova Kopan.
We are thrilled to bring you the We Go Boldly podcast.
Let's talk big burning questions, life changes, and maybe a bit of personal business.
Let's be bold and brave together. Are you ready?
I am. Here comes the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Go Boldly, the podcast. We are, as we always are, very happy to have you with us here today. We're still in season 10, and we are talking all about how to be comfortable and sit in silence without distractions. Like we're going to dive into this topic that I find fascinating. I know Tova did the research for this. Before we do that, let me just say we are proud members of the Power Moms Network. We love our network. We hope that you will go check it out. It's a very cool place. If you're interested, you can find them online. And we are thrilled to be members of the Power Moms. So with that being said, let me just say hello to Tova real quick. And we're going to get into our topic today. So how are you doing today, Tova? Are you comfortable in silence?
No, not at all. Not even a little bit. I am very uncomfortable without distractions. I think the closest I get to being comfortable without distractions is with a book, which I know is a distraction, clearly, but it's like the least distraction-y.
Yeah, it's like, but we're going to get into this. I think that if you're just reading the book, as in like not reading the book, watching TV and listening to music all at the same time,
right,
then I think it is something you can do like in silence, right?
Yes, I can do a book in silence. I can I can listen to music. I was going to say in silence. That's not
right. As a single activity.
Yeah. Or like when I'm walking, I can do one thing at a time.
Yep.
In fact, listening to a podcast or listening to a book is something that when I'm walking, I can only do that thing at a time. Like, I mean, I'm walking, but I can't do anything else. Like I can't be playing on my phone because I would trip. And also I would then miss what I'm listening to.
Right.
Like it requires my attention. But I am not great at that ability of sitting in silence and hyper, like being able to focus on something. And that has been, a struggle. When I was studying for the bar, I would prefer to study. I still like to work, in a coffee shop. I would study for the bar at Panera Bread because I liked that din of distraction.
Yeah.
And somehow that hum would keep me from being distracted, right? Like,
yeah,
if there was just enough of like, oh, look, that person has a cute purse or whatever, then I wasn't bored. And so I wasn't clicking in things on my computer to distract me from my boredom.
Yeah. So I think, and we'll back up in a second, but I think there's a distinction between distraction and like white noise, right?
Yes.
And I believe that what you're describing is more like white noise. Whereas if you're watching a TV, listening to music, and I don't know, playing a game on your phone, like that's more than white noise. That's not because you're not focused on any one thing, right? Like whereas when you were studying, you were focused on studying, and there was the white noise of people and humanity behind you. And so in that context, I don't personally feel like it's a distraction. There are other contexts where I would, but in that one I don't. But you did the research for this episode, so maybe we back up into. I see you have some definitions here in our outline.
I do. I thought I would kick it off with some definitions, and I started with silence. And as I said in last week's episode, where we were talking about like the worry spiral, like we're not going to talk about the sphere of silence. Like this isn't going to be about starting your day with an hour of silence. We're going to actually set some realistic goals.
Though I would love to do that. I'll be honest with you. As you know, I love the silence.
I would love for your life to have that be a realistic goal.
Same.
I wish that upon you. But because unfortunately what you're going to hear from us is, not to skip to the end, but this is a matter of practice, right? Like this is being comfortable without distractions, not to like spoil the whole episode for you, but I will, spoiler alert, this is a matter of practicing.
Right.
So silence is the complete absence of sound. I will straight up tell you, I am not comfortable with that. Like in almost any context, I don't understand it at all.
And I am the opposite. I can sit in silence for an extended period of time and be perfectly happy. And part of it is practice. Like I worked to get there, but part of it is also the way my brain works, right? Like, and I think I want to acknowledge that from the outset. Like we're all different, we're all unique, and we all have different needs. For me, that silence is comforting and it leaves me peaceful and it leaves me like, I can breathe, I can take a deep breath and I can like function and start thinking about things and making my lists and doing the stuff I need to do. Whereas for other people, that level of silence means like you're going to start thinking and you're going to start making lists and it's going to like spiral. It's going to turn into that worry spiral we talked about.
Well, and it's interesting. I think as I have gotten, I don't know if it's older or more aware of what's happening in my brain or what, like noise I find very distracting. So there is some happy medium that I like a din in the background. But like yesterday, I was watching my son's playoff game. And as he was pitching, my other son was trying to listen to YouTube videos. And there was no quiet that he could put the sound on that was not too loud for me.
Right.
Like, I finally was just like, you have to sit somewhere else. Because he's like, Mom, I cannot make it quieter. And I was like, then please leave. Like, just go sit somewhere else. Because his brother was pitching and it was very, very stressful. I also did not know the score. So it actually wasn't that stressful.
You made it more stressful for yourself.
They had a much larger lead than I realized. So as he was giving up runs, it was not quite as big of a deal that I thought it was.
Right.
But I did not know that at the time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was so stressful. But it wasn't, and they won. Woohoo. And who knows, by the end of this, by the time that you're hearing this, maybe they're the champions. Maybe they were eliminated in the next game.
Yeah.
It's a mystery. But at the time, the quietest sound coming out of his YouTube, although the YouTube, there is a certain noise that those sounds make that I cannot handle. But the quietest sound was bothersome to me. But like, I love the sound of like that background baseball sound, right? That's like a lovely sound to me. So anyway, silence, a complete absence of sound. Distraction. The definition of that, a thing that prevents someone from giving full attention to something else. And another definition I thought was interesting, extreme as agitation of the mind or emotions. I just thought that was interesting, just the description of it.
Yeah.
And then comfortable, free from stress or fear. So when we're talking about being free, of being comfortable without distraction, this idea of feeling free from stress or fear, without extreme agitation of the mind or emotions. I think that it is often hard for us to be comfortable in that peace, right? And that's what we're kind of figure out, like, how do we achieve that?
Yeah.
Because we often use distractions as a way to distract ourselves. Perfect example, during the pandemic, everybody was suddenly making sourdough bread.
Right.
Or baking something, or it's like,
having Zoom cocktail hours and like, just to be clear, like the community building of it all.
Yes.
Is fantastic. The flip side of it that you're sort of describing, maybe less so.
Yes. I think that, like, on one hand, it it was wonderful what people were doing. And on the other hand, it was like, please don't leave me alone with my thoughts.
Right. Whereas like during the pandemic, I was like, oh wow, I really love this. Like I hated the pandemic, obviously.
Yes.
But like
Yes.
the ability to like turn off things and just be okay, be like calm, not have to answer emails, answer phone calls, answer this, that, and the other thing was not have to go to the grocery store, right? Like all these things were relieving for me in a lot of ways.
Well, I think for me, I had a lot of massive aha moments for me personally in 2020.
Yeah.
I mean, the nation had a lot of aha moments in 2020 because we had time to not look another way. The news cycle was not distracting us because there wasn't something every moment.
Right.
And I think that, initially having our calendars, wiped clean. Like I can look at my calendar and there's something, especially this time of year, every day. Yeah. Every day is busy. 15 things. And I think that, when it got wiped clean and it was just like, well, what is anchoring me to anything? And it was a distraction. It was like, oh no, those are distractions. And some of the things on my calendars were, and some of them were genuine connections to people.
Sure.
Right. Like, but I think the pandemic made it very clear, like what I was using as a distraction and what I actually was missing as a genuine connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by having it all get taken away, I realized what I wanted to come back.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, everything came back.
Right.
We didn't get to pick what came back and what didn't come back. But there are, when I started this research, it was very frustrating because when I first started, like, okay, let's look up distractions and how do people deal with distractions and how do people feel comfortable with distractions? The onslaught of articles about how to eliminate distractions to be more productive.
Ugh.
It was all, Business Weekly and Forbes and all of this stuff. And initially I was like, wait, I don't want any of these. I don't want this article. I don't want this article. And then I thought, well, maybe I should read some of them. Right. And just to see like, what are they saying? And maybe there's insight into some of the studies and what they're learning. So there was actually. So I want to share some of the kind of interesting things that I learned. So one thing was, one study found that people did not immediately resume their tasks after being interrupted 40% of the time. And I found this to be really interesting because I think that if you're trying to forget productivity, but if you're trying to just maintain some sort of peacefulness in your home, whether you have a dog, a spouse, whether you're the one distracting yourself, you have kids, whatever the case may be. Once again, if you're the troublemaker of distracting yourself, but you're trying to just maintain peace. Like, I'm not saying you're trying to be productive in your home. You're just trying to like bring calm to your home. And every time you're distracting yourself, it takes time to bring back the peace. Like 40% of the time, you're not able to do it quickly.
Right.
That's hard. That's a big chunk of time. They also found there was something else that was like, when somebody's sitting in front of their computer at work, and I didn't include this and I wish I would have, but it's like almost every 40 seconds, someone gets taken off topic. So whether it's, an email popping up or they notice something else on the web browser, it's just an insane number of times. And that, so even if you're at home and you're doing work for something else beyond work, but also if that is your day at work, when you come home, it is even more important to try to figure out how to be comfortable without distractions rather, because your whole day is filled with distractions. Like your whole day is just bananas filled with distractions. But the one thing that I thought was really important from what they were saying was this acknowledgement that humans are hardwired for distraction. That our brain's attention system is programmed to respond to anything that is pleasurable, threatening, or novel. So we have this novelty bias where our brain is flooded with dopamine, which is the pleasure chemical, whenever we focus on something new. So there's a reason for this, right? Like we're hanging out, we're doing our thing, and then like there is a saber-toothed tiger coming along, and it's like, that's new, and I'm gonna get, I don't know why it would be dopamine, I assume also accompanied with adrenaline,
Right.
And like we're gonna flee the tiger because this is scary and new, and then we're gonna feel excited that we, lived through another day. But the fact is, like there's an evolutionary reason that when you see something new, you're like, oh, this is exciting.
Right.
This is new. And so your body rewards you for being distracted.
Yeah.
Which makes it tough, man.
It does. And this is why social media and phones and screens of all sorts are so addictive for people, because you do get that hit of dopamine. And it's why attention spans have gone shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter over time, because if you think about watching a reel or a short on YouTube versus watching a 10-minute video on YouTube, right? Like every 8 seconds, you're seeing something new. You're reading a 2-word headline. You're like getting this little snippet of new information, and your body is getting a shot of that dopamine. And what happens, of course, in addiction is you need it more and more and more. And so this is where we wind up having like kids hooked on YouTube or screens of some sort. And I personally think it's dangerous and unhealthy. Though I understand it. Like there are certainly days where I sit and thumb through reels on Instagram and laugh and chuckle and whatever. But like I watched my kids watching YouTube, and I had to just take it away from them because it changed their personalities. Like it changed how they function in the world to have that level of like constant stimulation. Because that's what it is. It's stimulation, and that's why you get the dopamine release, right? But it's too much. It's too much for most brains to effectively process and feel good at the end of the day. So we have to, I think, be mindful of that.
Yeah, and I think the advent of shorts has made it worse. Like
absolutely.
It's like it feels insane, but when I'm like, hey guys, go watch a long form YouTube, please. Like watch a long video. Go watch Mr. Beast give somebody, make them do something for a long period of time and participate in a long competition. And or go watch Dude Perfect go to South Africa and do a 20-minute video about it. Like watch something long, not a 20-second short, please.
Yeah.
So we say all this because this is not an easy task, and it is not something that often comes naturally.
Yeah.
And it is a fairly unrealistic expectation if you're listening to this and you haven't attempted to be comfortable without distractions, to be comfortable without distractions.
Right. We need to take a quick break. So why don't we do that? When we come back, before we dive into like the benefits of learning how to do this, I want to talk about some thoughts on like why, beyond the biological reasons, like why are people needing distractions? So I know that's not in your outline, but I feel like we need to just touch on it at least. So let's take a quick break, everyone, and we will be right back. Well, hey there, dream chaser. Are you ready to make the next 12 months of your life unforgettable? Introducing the Year of You, a groundbreaking new goal system group that's about to redefine the way we approach personal growth. Join us with a community of like-minded individuals committed to unlocking their full potential. With expert guidance, personalized strategies, kind-hearted accountability, and a supportive network, the Year of You is more than just a goal-setting group. It's a whole movement. Don't just dream about it, achieve it. Click in the link in our show notes, or go ahead and visit us at goboldlyinitiative.com/Year of You to learn more today. Let's embark on a transformative journey together towards becoming the best versions we can be. The year of you, where your goals become reality. All right, so welcome back to the show. Before the break, I mentioned kind of wanting to dive in a little bit to the why of it all. I know we're spending a whole season on how, right? Which I think is important. We need to give you guys practical information to use to move your lives forward. But it's in this particular setting, I feel like it is important to acknowledge the why of distraction. Like, what are you using the distraction for? Because there are healthy distractions and there are unhealthy distractions, right? So what are you avoiding? And when you think about, and this will also help you with the how to, right? Because there are times where it's totally cool, just sit in the distraction, it's fine. And then there are other times where you really need to like attend to the underlying issue that is making you want to dive into the distraction. And that is the discomfort. That's the much harder task that we're going to talk about the benefits of like undertaking. But I know for me, like sometimes and I just posted about this on my personal Facebook or whatever somewhere, I don't know. And I was like, oh my God, everything is too much, right? Like it's the end of the school year. I busted up my knee, my like there's just a bajillion things going on and I'm not getting any of that silent time, which for me is bad news. And I am totally underwater, like mentally, emotionally, physically, everything feels like it's too much. And I posted about it and I was like, hey, what are your go-tos, everybody? Like, what do you do when this happens? Because I wanted some new ideas, right? Like I know what to do, but I wanted to see like what do other people think? Like somebody give me something new to try because nothing I'm doing is working. And I got so many responses and the vast majority indicated a need to be present, right? Like,
Yeah.
to be present for yourself for some period of time. Nobody was like, hey, you should take all day long and sit in silence, be present for yourself. But people were like, hey, if you can find that 15 minutes and like really engage with yourself and do something for yourself, whatever it is, then that's going to help. And, I got a lot of other advice, which was great too, but like that was that was the underlying theme I took away. And that requires you to be comfortable with, no distractions, just to be in the moment, to be present and attending to your own well-being. The reason for me that that's hard right now is because I feel like I'm being pulled in every different direction, right?
Yeah.
I feel like everyone wants a piece of me and I have nothing left to give. And so it's hard. It's hard to not want to be like, I'm just going to read all day and like watch bad TV. And, if you don't know me, I love dating shows. So like watching terrible dating shows or something like that. Right. And that is not the healthiest distraction for me right now. That's not like maybe for a little bit, but not for an entire day, right? So, what is it that you are experiencing in your life that is causing you to want to bury those feelings or thoughts or experiences? What is happening for you? And that's the kind of questions that you probably ought to be asking yourself before you get into even the how to, because it will impact the how to of it all. It'll help you pick a direction. Because that 15 minutes is not feasible for me right now. I actually don't have the time this week. Next week, probably. This week, no. And so what can I do for myself to deal with the overwhelm that will give me something akin to the feeling of being in silence, being quiet, being, calm and peaceful and connected to the universe, which is what I really need.
And I think we've talked about, we had a whole season about busy, right?
Mm.
And this time of year, I think that there is legitimately busy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you and I are, we had planned on recording this episode yesterday and they were cutting down a tree across the street from my house. Like straight up, the block was closed. They had a mulcher in front of my house. If we tried to record this yesterday, you would not have heard us record it because it was so loud in my house.
Right.
And so we then are squeezing this in right after drop off and right before an early morning meeting. And like our day is just bananas today. So I got up super early this morning to go for a walk and like both of our days are just bam, 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 bam all day long. And that is busy in the traditional sense of the word. Like there is something filling the time in all the time. And so we are not distracted by things. It's quite literally filled with time, with things.
Right.
But then what we talked about in our season on busyness was that feeling of busy, of when you are like not running around, when you do have that downtime, but you cannot sit still or you cannot stop moving. Because we talked about a whole bunch of reasons to feel that need, whether it's a desire for productivity, to prove your productivity, for self-worth, whether it's, but it was also this feeling of like covering up something, right? That there were things in your life that you were distracting yourself from.
Right.
And I think that, as you're saying, there are some times where if I am playing on my phone, like sometimes I am watching TV and I'm working on an Instacart grocery order because I want to watch TV and I also need to do my grocery list.
Right.
That is not me, ignoring my life. That is me doing my life while watching something enjoyment on TV. Yep. But if I'm playing on my phone and I have a magazine out and I'm watching TV and I'm just like doing a bunch of things, that might be a good opportunity to be like, what am I not thinking about? Like, what am I not doing? Why can I not just sit and watch this TV show?
Right.
And admittedly, I struggle sitting and watching a TV show, like a lot. But that's one reason I almost always have a puzzle going, because it's fun to be able to do. I like to do something with my hands. Like,
yeah, well, let's talk about that for a second, because I think this is a more nuanced topic than people might realize. There are people whose brains are wired in such a way that they need to constantly move their hands, or they need to move their feet, or they need to be touching things, right? That is not distraction. That is just the way in which somebody's brain is wired. Distraction is when you're avoiding something. Right. It's when you're avoiding dealing with your life in some way, whether it's past trauma, whether it's a blip in your relationship, something you're worried about with your kids, something you're worried about with yourself. If you don't want to listen to your inner voice and you'll hear it.
Yes, exactly.
If it's quiet, right? These are the moments where we're talking about distraction. Other things are like, if you have any kind of neurodivergence in your life, or people with neurodivergence in your life, like, that there is no sitting still. There is no like if somebody has ADHD or something like that, there's no sitting still, and that's not distraction. That's their body. That's the way they're wired, and that's cool. It's an issue of, are you avoiding something? Like, and if you are avoiding something, what is it? Right. And then if you figure all that out, like, okay, here's what we can do to work on sitting with those feelings or thoughts or experiences that you're trying to avoid. And here's our daily or our weekly plug for therapy. If it's something really traumatic, seek, professional advice, like seek professional help, have somebody help you walk through that process of sitting with that trauma, because that can be, you can re-traumatize yourself. You have to be thoughtful about how you do that.
Yeah. So I want to change the order of this outline, because I think we can talk about the benefits maybe at the end. I think the benefits are going to come out when we talk about how to be comfortable with distractions, because I think we should just jump into how to be comfortable with the distractions.
Let's do it.
And so, because I think I'm just going to skip to one, because I want to talk about we will talk about journaling and meditation and all this stuff, but I promise. But like, I like the one where it talks about practicing mindful eating. And I had this twice because I kind of liked how it said practicing mindful eating is the more like serious way to describe it. But, when you eat, just eat. And now when my kids and I do that, we always try to put on music that matches the food, because it like makes it so it's not like you have to like sit in silence, but it makes try to make the meal part of the experience, like an experience, right? So like when you eat, try to be present. And the benefit of this could be actually savoring the food that you eat, right? It could be drinking your coffee in the morning and savoring the coffee that you drink in the morning, savoring the smell, savoring the process, and trying to just to do one thing at a time, right? So I know when we've talked a lot about how to be comfortable with distractions up to this point, a lot of it has been like finding those 15 minutes in the day to take time to have silence or be quiet or whatever. What if we just try to do less at one time throughout our day? Like, what if we just try, and to be perfectly honest, it's one of the reasons if you come over to my house a lot, if you like put a camera in my house, which would be creepy, don't do that. You will see me a lot with in noise canceling headphones on. We have a 2-bedroom apartment. I have 3 children. They all make noise.
Right.
And especially during the summer, they're outside a lot. They play a lot of sports, but sometimes when they're home, they are on their screens and they all have headphones. Because I cannot handle the noise.
No.
I cannot handle complete silence, but I also cannot handle the noise. But I wear my own headphones and I will listen to something and I can do that while I'm doing some mindless tasks. Or when we get off of this, actually I have calls back to back all day. I don't know what I'm going to do it, but eventually I will get to things around my house.
Right.
And I will be emptying the dishwasher and doing things like that. And I will be listening to something. And even though I will be doing some tasks around the house, I will really be listening to a podcast that will kind of be my task that I will be doing at the time. But like doing one thing at a time is, and if that thing can be like eating your lunch and actually not working while you're eating your lunch. This is something that, you and I both started working with a nutritionist through Nourish, and for like totally separate reasons. But like, I know mine has recommended like blocking off time on my calendar and actually taking a lunch, despite the fact that I work from home and that I can squeeze it in. And she's like, no, take a lunch, figure out a way to make it enjoyable, stop what you're doing, don't continue to work through the lunch, and actually like eat lunch. Like, stop, do, one thing at a time.
Right.
So one way to practice being comfortable without distractions throughout your day is to do one thing at a time.
Yeah. Well, so the underlying reason of that is to be present, right? Like to be in the moment, whether you're eating, whether you're exercising, whether you're, having a conversation with somebody. I cannot tell you how much I hate when I'm having a conversation with somebody and they're like looking at their phone or they're, distracted by something. I would much rather a person say to me, hey, you know what? I'm distracted right now, than try to talk to somebody who's like scrolling, I don't know, Twitter or whatever, X, I guess it is, whatever it is. I just, it drives me bananas, and it's a pet peeve, obviously, because I keep going on about it. But the goal is to be present in your own life. The goal is to enjoy the moments of your life. And it is so hard sometimes. Like that's one of the things I'm struggling with the most right now is being like, I have my son's, I forget what they call it. It's a graduation, but it's not really a graduation tonight. And I want to be there and like enjoy it and be present for him and aware of what he's doing. And yet in my head, there's like 8,000 other things I'm thinking about and planning ahead and trying to figure out summer stuff. And like, right. So trying to let go of even the distractions that I'm creating in my own head, right? Which we all do. Trying to let go of some of those so that I can enjoy the hour that I'm there with him or, whatever I'm doing at any given time. I think that is a big part of the goal here.
So 2 things. I don't know if these are approved by other experts in the field, but one thing was I had a good friend who for a while worked with an ADHD coach. So obviously this would be particular to someone who had a neurodivergency, but she learned that it was easier. So this is not for everybody, but that it was easier for her to engage in a conversation if she was playing, like, until she got better at engaging in conversations, if she was playing with a game on her phone, not scrolling Twitter, not playing on Facebook. And with the empowerment of the coach, she learned to just tell people that at the beginning of the conversation.
Right.
And so I remember she told me about how she was working with the coach, and she's like, I might play with the game on this game. It was like Minesweeper or something. Like, it wasn't like and she was like, it's so that I'm actually engaging more in the conversation. And I was like, okay. And she told me that right at the beginning of the conversation. And she doesn't do it anymore. Although when she comes over, we puzzle a lot. And it makes it so much easier. Like, it is easier for her. And she feels way less stress in our conversations because we puzzle. But I thought that was because she may have been one of those people that would have been scrolling on Twitter.
Right.
And you would have been very frustrated.
Right.
And she probably would have been frustrated with herself afterwards, honestly.
Right. All of that. Yeah.
But I just thought, like, how empowering to have that coach be like, hey, here's a tip until you have better habits. The other thing, just as an aside, I have a running to-do list. I'm trying to move it to Keep, but it's often just on Notes because you don't need internet, and a lot of the auditoriums don't have good internet.
Yeah.
I keep like running to-do lists all the time for like exactly the scenario you have at like graduation or stuff, so that I can be engaged and present. So if I'm like watching something and I'm like, oh, I need to do that, because what will happen, like, call back to last week's worry spiral, is I'll sit there and be like, oh my gosh, am I going to remember to do that? And like, I will miss 15 minutes of a program. And instead, I'll just like open up my phone, discreetly write on Notes, like blah, 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 like whatever it is that will help me remember. Half the time I look back and I'm like, okay, I think that's what these words mean. Because I like try not to even look at my phone, but it's enough to like get it out of my head and get back to the program.
Yeah. Well, and that's why people keep like a notebook next to their bed at night, or, you know, like I have notepads all over the house where I can write things down. It helps if they're all in one place, but you know, what are you going to do?
Yeah. I think another thing, and I like this on the list, like, once again, we will talk about journaling and meditation, but you guys have heard that so much. So I'm skipping to the ones that I feel like are different and like we might not think about. And I don't think that this is something that a lot of people think about when they're talking about being present, is build a routine.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of times when we talk about being present, it's like, you know, go on that. I don't know, I picture somebody like going down the Pacific Coast Highway in a convertible. Like, that's what's in my head.
I love it.
I'm not sure. I think there must be some, you know, image from the 90s that got stuck in my head.
Yeah, that's some movie you watched at some point as a teen, and you were like,
yes, that's what it means to be present. Yes. Right. But you know, the arms are in the air and the wind's flowing, but in all honesty, it's just building a routine. But I think when you can, you know, when you know that there's things on your to-do list, when you have expectations set for the day, when you know what's coming next, obviously life will throw you 1,800 curveballs, but it can help you be present with what you're doing. Because, you know, I will be honest, I had to give myself a solid pep talk this morning, because as Riley knows, and probably you know at this point, listeners, I like my house to be put away before we record. I record in my dining room. I can see my whole kitchen. I can sense my bed. I can't see it, but it's just on the other wall. So right now I'm looking at, there's wiffle balls on my counter. I don't know why. The calamine lotion is out. The tablets are not in their chargers. Like, the ice cube tray is out, because I said, just leave it out. I'll do it later. Like, my kitchen's a mess. My bed is not made. Like, the house is not settled.
Yeah.
Because we had a time commitment to get this done in the morning, because we're squeezing it in. And I had to give myself a hardcore pep talk that, like, that is okay. I actually thought we were doing a podcast about worry spiral, so I thought it would be fitting, but I don't know why I thought that. But you know, but I gave myself this pep talk, like, it will be okay, because you can do that at this time. Like, you will be able to do it at this appropriate time, and you'll be able to put everything away. And I think that it has actually allowed me despite the fact that there are wiffle balls in my line of vision, to be more present now.
Right.
And I think when you have that routine, when you're like, okay, and this is even a day where I'm out of my routine, but I think when you're in your routine, it's even okay when you get out of it because you're like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Like routines allow you to trust yourself, and they allow you to trust that the things that need to happen will happen, right? That you are capable of doing what you need to do, which I think we don't necessarily have at the top of our conscious, right? Is like, can I actually accomplish these things? Like, it's rare that I'm sitting here going, I don't know if I can actually do that. What if I can't do that? Right. About mundane stuff. And so the routine is the thing that builds that trust with yourself, where you learn like you can rely on yourself. You can rely on the fact that even if you don't get to it today, you're going to get to it tomorrow because it's a part of your routine, and your morning routine will go back to normal tomorrow. And that ability to trust yourself also gives you the ability to function without distractions, right? Like if you can trust that you're on track to do the things you need to do, you don't need to like avoid the feeling of it not being done. You didn't need to avoid recording this morning because okay, I'm gonna, deal with this at an appropriate time today. Like I will make a time for this and it will get done. So you can stop avoiding stuff when you know that like you're safe, that it's safe to function.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break just so we don't forget to take our last break. And then I promise the next ones are more fun than have a routine. So let's take a quick break and then we're going to come back to some more fun how-tos. We will be right back. Hey there, pod family. Have you ever wished you could stay in the loop with a little slice of transformation and inspiration delivered straight to your inbox? Well, you're in luck because now you can. Introducing our fantastic newsletter, your VIP pass to all things exciting and informative. Join our community of growth-minded souls. Get the hottest topics delivered right to your inbox. It's quick, easy, and totally free. Just head over to our website at goboldlyinitiative.com and sign up for our newsletter today. Don't miss out on the next big thing. Stay connected with us. Subscribe now and get ready for some big, bold love. Okay, welcome back. So this is one of my favorites for everything, for all reminders of any how-to that you'd ever need, but it is put up reminders. So we both have done this in our houses. I have reminders. I probably should refresh them because I think if a reminder's been up for 4 years, 3 years, I don't know how much I'm reading it. I do have a reminder that says something about there's light inside of you right on my fridge. And I think it's hilarious every time I open my fridge.
That is pretty funny.
But putting up reminders on your phone, right? So I have a couple of reminders that pop up from a gratitude app that I love, or like literally I have printed out reminders. They're on our website. Go check them out. That I've printed out and putting them around the house, but reminders about being present or taking a breath or whatever it is that you need a reminder to do. And it can be reminders on your phone. It can be reminders, like I said, I have them printed out and laminated and all over my house, whatever works for you. It can be an incredibly helpful thing. I also have a spot in my planner that's like my daily intention. I don't know how you give yourself reminders.
A lot of the same things. I think reminders for me are more about staying, like you're saying, staying present and being aware of like, what am I doing right now? What do I need to be doing right now? Can I focus on that one thing? Right. I don't think I have been particularly successful in using reminders over the last few months. What happens for me, and I'm saying this because one, I don't want people to feel alone, but two, like there are other solutions. But what happens to me is I just start to ignore the reminders.
Yeah.
And, we've talked about this a lot, Tova and I, independently of the podcast. Like, I struggle to figure out what motivates me to do things. I am very stubborn. It's, I'm pretty self-aware as well. But it's hard for me to force myself to do something I don't want to do. And I've yet to figure out exactly what motivates me or anything that motivates me to do something that I'm like, I don't really want to do that. So I'm still working on that, to be honest. And I think, the reminders for me are about like connecting and being, that like I'm not alone in the universe, or that like, I'm worthwhile and I'm valuable, those kinds of things, which are less about accomplishing stuff and more about feeling okay with myself. And I think, there there is a value to that in the sense that that helps me need less distractions, right? Because a lot of times people need a distraction because you don't feel very good about yourself.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel very good about yourself, you probably don't want to sit in silence with yourself and like say mean things, right? I'm speaking from like vast experience, having done that for years of just berating myself for no good reason, really. But if you can't learn to turn off that negative self-talk, then being silent is awful. It's just uncomfortable and unpleasant and mean.
Yeah. Which is why, by the way, we have not given the just sit in silence recommendation yet.
Yeah.
There are a lot of ways to practice being comfortable without distractions that isn't just sitting in silence. Although, meditation is a possibility to practice being comfortable without distractions.
Yeah, I want to talk about that for a second. If you have any of the struggles I just described, like when you're silent and you hear your voice start talking to you and it's not nice, I would strongly encourage you to try meditation, but to try guided meditation, and guided meditation that is specifically geared towards working on that inner voice or your self-worth or your feelings of value, because there are specific meditations out there that relate to those topics, and that is a great place to start, because what you're going to learn to do over extensive amounts of time is to combat that voice in your head and recognize that it's not real, that those are just negative self-talk that isn't actually the truth, right? Where whatever the truth is, it's some unnameable thing. So I really, really like, that is something that helped me tremendously. And you can start at 5 minutes. You don't have to do a 20-minute meditation for that. Like, start small and build, and don't expect to do it every single day and be like, yay, I win at meditation. Like, that's not how it works.
There's also, for those of you like me, for those of me who do want to dip their toes, we are going to talk about silence for just a brief moment in meditation that is just silence. There are options. I know Insight Timer has a course, and I did it for a while, where they did build up silence.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how far I got, but I do know that I don't know, it wasn't like up to 10 minutes or anything, but it was a few minutes, and
Right.
it went by really fast. Like, I got to the point where like 3 or 4 minutes of total silence, it went by fast. And the first time I did it, 1 minute was excruciatingly long. And so it felt empowering,
Yeah.
to be able to like lay still for 4 minutes and be like, oh, that wasn't bad. Like, I don't know when that skill set will come in handy, but it just felt very powerful to be like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah, well, so this brings me back to our naming our feelings episode, and being able to take charge of your feelings like that, because it's a lot of this is about feelings, right?
Yeah.
Being able to take charge of your feelings for those 4 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, is extremely empowering, because then you know that no one else can come in and take over from you. You're in charge. Like, if whatever you're feeling, you're the cruise director of. I don't know. So I do think that's important. Also, if you're looking for like a middle of the road sort of silence practice, there's there are meditations on Insight Timer and Calm and places like that where it's just music or it's like singing bowls or things like that. That can help you manage the, semi-silence of it all, right? Like, because then you can sort of tune in, your body will attune to the sounds and it'll help you ground, which will then help you sit in the discomfort of the silence.
Yeah. Yeah. Also journaling. So if you need to be silent but doing, journaling can be a good silent but doing option. It's a great way to, basically you're meditating, but you're moving, right? You're moving your hands.
Right.
So that is a good option. And maybe it allows you to release some of the feelings. It has that physical benefit of actually getting them out of your body. At least for me, that's what it feels like.
Yeah. And you can, if you are stuck in that worry spiral or the negative self-talk or the endless list making, like you can write all that stuff down and get it out. And I think, like you're saying, Tova, like it gets it out of your body, which is extremely important. And I mean, it sounds kind of hokey, right? Like, what do you mean it gets it out of my body? But that energy builds up inside your body and you have to release it somehow. So if you're not going to go like punch a punching bag, then like write it down and it'll get out.
I don't want to say this one, but I would be remiss if I didn't. You can pause screen time. I love television and it's the best. But depending on why you're watching TV or how you're using television or movies or screen time or YouTube or, and screen time counts as phone time. Like if you're laying in bed and you're just staring at a screen because that's the only way you can fall asleep, then this needs to be a conversation you need to have with yourself. Like,
right.
Why is this the only way I can fall asleep? Why am I looking at this at night? And maybe it means, you trade it out for a Kindle and you read a Kindle at bedtime. Like you don't need to go cold turkey on engagement before bed.
Yeah.
But there's a big, you've heard the studies about looking at your phone before bed, looking at it the first thing before you wake up in the morning. But figuring out like why you can't go to sleep, like it's hard to turn off your brain at night. Like that's legit. And the fact is, there's studies out there, it's better to watch your TV than watch your phone. Like, baby step your way to whatever you need to do, but figure out, why do you need this distraction?
Right.
Why are you watching it? Even so, like I don't want to be all hoity-toity or anything, but my Netflix is set not to automatically start the next episode. So like I have to decide that I want to watch it. It will I think, does Netflix still ask if I want to keep watching?
Yes. Yes, I think it does.
Even if I keep clicking this episode over and over and over again?
No. If it just scrolls, then
if it just scrolls, it does.
Then it does. Then it judges you harshly.
Yes. So it doesn't judge me if I watch 18 episodes in a row, if I affirmatively choose to do it.
You do it with intention. It's totally fine.
But honestly, like, if I have to affirmatively do it, it gives me a break. I get up, I go to the bathroom, I get a drink. Like,
right. Well, it's a choice then, right? Like you have to actually make the choice to click the button to make it go. I would also note, like, if you are using television to avoid communicating with your partner or doing anything with your children, or which honestly, like we all need a break sometimes, so don't beat yourself up. But like if it's an avoidance, a constant avoidance, right? So that's the other thing I actually wanted to mention. And that is like, sometimes we all need a distraction, and it's okay to take a day where you're like, I'm going to watch 18 episodes of Buffy and no one's going to stop me. And I'm not going to think about anything and I'm not going to deal with my life. And that is 1,000,000% okay. Like there is no judgment coming from us about that. And what we were talking about is sort of like chronic distraction, right? Like if you can't make it through a month where you're like not watching TV all day and mindlessly eating, and I don't know.
Like, let me explain the difference, friends. So early in my marriage and before I got married, every Wednesday, my boyfriend and I, fiance, we would cook fish and we would make a special dinner and we would watch Lost together, like an island inspired dinner. And we would watch Lost. It was like date night on Wednesday night. And it was fun because Wednesday night, what are you doing? It's Wednesday night. Like we would watch Lost. I am pretty sure that my marriage was artificially extended because of the Eagles Super Bowl run, because we could throw ourselves into watching football and I personally could ignore what was happening in the world around me.
Right.
Because the Eagles were so good. One was a healthy way to enhance our relationship.
Right.
One was an unhealthy distraction from a marriage that was falling apart.
Right.
So 2 examples, both pleasurable experiences, but did not have the same distracting benefit. So, take that for what you want. But once again, TV, both watching, but not the same, value in a relationship. And I think you probably didn't need that harsh difference, but listen, you can be watching shows with your partner and it can be like a fun conversation piece.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it because you're avoiding other conversations, that's the problem.
Right.
If you're doing it in addition to other conversations, cool.
And I think that goes for all forms of distraction, right? Like,
right.
And we're sort of hammering at this because it's really important, because what we don't want is for you all to think you have to go out there and be perfect, right? Like, you're not going to be perfect. None of us are. And this is one of your points here, Tova, and that is that there is no failure, right? You're going to make mistakes. You're going to spend and I don't even think this is a mistake, but you're going to spend a day watching TV or reading all day, and give your brain that break. Give your mind, body, spirit, whatever, a break. It's totally fine. That is not a failure. Even if you do it for 2 weeks and then you're like, whoa, what just happened? It's still not a failure, because you can make a different choice, right? You can choose to like engage in your life again. In fact,
I would encourage you to, like, we have not talked about this. Ooh, maybe we'll talk about this in August. Ooh, I'm thinking this is exciting. You cannot rely on a 1-week vacation once a year to be everything you need, right?
No.
So a day where you take away life and you're like, I'm going to take a vacation and it's going to be me and my television and some books. That sounds amazing. Do it, right? Like, I included, so real fast, because we do have to wrap up. Get out in nature. It's always a solution, like almost always.
Yeah.
For like almost every how-to we've had this year, except like how to find a therapist, unless like, I don't know, it's a therapy convention outside.
Right.
Like,
a forest of therapists.
Yeah. Get out in nature is such a good way to practice being okay without distractions. Cause like there are distractions, but there aren't distractions. Practice creativity, like build that into your schedule, whether it's piano or a coloring book or an art class, whatever. But now I'm going to skip to the end. So keep practicing. Okay. Because it takes practice. You have a life that is built to distract you. Your work is built to distract you. Your body is built to get excited by distractions. So this is very hard. And I included, like you were saying, there is no failure, but I included like the actual quotes right from the article because I love them so much. It says, you will mess up, but that's okay because it is impossible to mess up. It's an awful sentence and also wonderful. And it says, the only thing that matters is that you practice. And over time, if you keep doing it, you will learn to focus on the present more often than you do now. You cannot fail, even if you stop doing it for a while. Doing it at all is a success. Celebrate every little success. So I think that is just great. Like, doing it at all is a success. So guess what your homework is? We want you to take anything from this list, everything from this list, whether it is meditation or journaling or do a family meal, or I know I am really working on my personal meals. Dinner is still a mess because like every night is a different event.
It's impossible.
But I'm trying the meals that I have by myself, like lunch and stuff, to have them be more of a little private Tova event. and see if I can make them more present, make myself more present in them, both for this purpose and just to me healthier, like digestively. Like I eat healthy. I just don't eat healthy in the sense that it's all haphazard all over the day. And so figure out some way to add some more presence into your life, and less distraction where you can get it. So, practice any of these anti-distraction how-tos, and know that practice will not make perfect, but it will make better. And there's no failure. There's no way to mess up, but we will celebrate every little success because this is the summer of celebration and we plan on celebrating as much as we can. Don't forget to check out our women's circle because we are all about celebrating there. At this point, we have probably shared with you our books for the book club, but we don't know what they are as we're recording this. So check out our Instagram feed because it'll be there and we'll be excited to have you join our book club. And what have I missed?
I think that's it. I mean, you can find out more on our website at goboldlyinitiative.com, or you can find us on social media at Go Boldly Together. We would love to hear from you. If you do practice some of these anti-distraction how-tos, we would love to hear how it goes. As I said, I posted on Facebook about my needing ideas the other day, and it made such a huge difference for me. Even just knowing that other people were like, yeah, me too, was really soothing, right? Like it helps you feel less like you're the only one in the world who's experiencing whatever you're experiencing, which is never true, by the way. But
yep. I was just say all summer, speaking of being a me too, and adding all summer, we are adding, we are posting what we are grateful for or what we are celebrating every single day. Yes. So you can head over to Instagram and you can share what you're grateful for or what you're celebrating. So if you have a success when it comes to this, no matter how small, share it there. It is a perfect place to share with us.
Yeah, definitely. We would love to hear from you guys. So
yes,
we will be back next week with another how-to. And like I said, I think last week, we're coming to the conclusion of our how-to season. And I can't wait to share with you our new stuff soon. So until then, everyone, have a wonderful week.
Thanks so much for listening to We Go Boldly podcast. We know you're busy and we love spending time with you.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, let us know. Head to Apple Podcasts right now to rate and review our show. While you're there, be sure to click that subscribe button.
Want more us time? Follow us on all the socials at Go Boldly Together.
Want even more us time? As in all the coaching pizzazz. Find us at goboldlyinitiative.com for all the info.
We will be back with more excitement, research, and deep thoughts next week.
Until then, keep on being the bold, brave, amazing people we know you already are.
The Power Moms Network, empowering moms to lift the world.